So, hello and welcome back to the next episode of the Self-Development with Tactics fucking podcast. Actually, which is definitely something that I've been thinking about quite often, quite lately or recently, which is if my podcast is actually explicit or if it is clean. But I kind of think it is more explicit than anything else because I'm swearing the fucking all the time, which is, I don't know, if there are any consequences if I had not, kinda showing it as, yeah, it is not for everyone. Maybe just younger viewers might be a little bit confused by it or whatever. I don't know if this is something that's, I don't know, the government or the platform itself actually, which would be more obvious. If they're just, doing anything against this or about this, or, if it's weighing anyways, or yeah. But as you can see in the background, this is the second part of 0 to 1 by, I don't know, unfortunately. Let's look this up. Faster. By Peter Thiel. Yeah, and the last time we've stopped with PayPal and future profits, which was basically all about why he thought okay, yeah, PayPal would be, would be making a lot of money by 2011, but at the end it was actually 2020, where PayPal's value will come from, the majority of PayPal's value. So this disclosed that the majority of PayPal's value will come from 2020 and beyond. Yeah, because every fucking company is just evolving. There's nothing you can do against it. Yeah, maybe some companies are just evolving quicker because they have the money or the employees or the technology. But I think at the end, companies will eventually grow or hopefully grow if you're owning the company. But sometimes I think, some of the higher staffs aren't doing that well, and therefore the fucking company goes down. Or actually, it's the CEO's fault or the founder's fault or whoever is in charge of the whole company itself, actually. But we will go ahead with characteristics, and I think it was a good point that I kind of stopped there because there are a few examples, and I didn't really want to have them all in the other episode because there was enough in the other episode, and therefore I just decided that it would be a great idea to quite have the characteristics and all these examples in one episode, that it's clear and people do not have to just kind of watch another episode because they only want to know this certain sentence that I've left out. But yeah, so Thiel describes companies that bring in large cash flows in the future as sharing the following characteristics. The first one is the fuck again, such words that I'm not able to pronounce. Proprietary technology, like appropriate. Is it the same thing, like without the A? So appropriate. Is it? I fuck myself. So appropriate technology, making your product almost impossible to copy. Definitely a good point. And for example, Apple is just doing this thing. You have your iOS devices, and no other fucking smartphone company or smartphone producer has the ability to have the same operating system because it's their operating system, and therefore they might be kind of copying the specs of the smartphone, so the actual used materials and what Apple just has used for building the actual iPhone. But you can never ever just copy the operating system, which is definitely a plus for Apple. The second one is network effects. This means that the product is increasingly useful the more people use it. Think Facebook. Yeah, totally. And this makes sense. And I think this is the most important, but not really most important, but one of the things that might come to your mind when you just think about social media platforms in general, or in general apps, I would say also, because most of the apps which kind of have something to do with online things, like if it's games, if it's something else, often they do just have to have a certain amount of people actually using this kind of platform. And without these kind of people, and without the early birds, or the quite early birds, which are actually the people who are, the first ones who are actually trying out your platform, your app, or whatever you're producing. And I do think this is quite often the case, that you just need a base audience to grow your platform. The third one is economics of scale. When businesses get stronger as they get bigger. Software startups are a great example, because the cost of creating a copy of the product is practically zero. So when the business gets stronger as they get bigger. Yeah, definitely. And I think in software, it's just, an immense growth. If you do just have one product or one certain thing you're doing, one certain software you're doing, you only need to do it once, and you can sell it all the fucking time. And if it's something that's, innovating, or an innovation kind of, or just a new technology, or it makes something easier, which, should be the case if it's your company idea or your business idea, because doing something that a lot of people just as well are doing, and they're doing it so well that you will never be able to kind of surpass them, would not be a great idea, because most of the people will just stick to the other ones and not to you, because you're a newcomer, and they have the trust in the other ones. And the fourth one is branding. And branding, at my point of view, is definitely pretty fucking important. And it has also something to do with trust, and status. Trust and status, I would say, because why do so much people buy Apple products? First of all, okay, the MacBook or the iMacs or the computers in general, and they have a great operating system, and you can work with them, fairly great. It's just an amazing experience, I think. It's just an amazing workflow, and therefore I would say, a lot of people just buy these products because they, can be used quite well, and they can be used for what they need them. But often I also think that a lot of people who are just, quite having an iPhone because of having an iPhone, they only do it because of status and or just kind of trust, but more status than trust. You just know these people. I definitely sure that you know these people who are basically only texting and using, I don't know, WhatsApp or Instagram and all these things, and actually they just bought themselves the newest iPhone, even though they had a good one before, and it doesn't make any sense that they have a new one. You definitely know these people, and I kind of misunderstand them or do not understand them, because I'm such a person. I'm quite having pretty old shit for a long time, which you totally can see. I'm using the iPhone 5S, actually right now for making the audio, or using as a microphone, and it works great. I don't need a microphone. I don't need a new phone, even though it's fairly slow and it is pissing me off quite often. It's just a lot of money that I would just use for just having something that small, or buying something that small. I understand that people who have the money will just totally buy it because it's they don't care, and also at my point of view, I can understand business people and people who are just in a hurry all the time, because it is important to be the fastest one. It makes sense for me, because just having an older device makes you a little bit slower. I would be definitely a little bit faster if I had a newer device. But for me, it's like I don't want to just pay for it. If I get it for free, totally, I would just take it. But I do not want to pay it. Thiel explains that the first move advantage is when you are first to the market and you have the opportunity to gain market share while the competitors are still rushing to get started. However, Thiel explains that moving first is not necessarily the end goal. It's a tactic. The goal should be generating cash flow, and you can be the last mover and still take over. The key is to find a niche market and scale it up. And that's totally right. It doesn't have to be like, you're the first in the market and you're like pretty establishing the market. That hasn't to be the case, because often it is like, certain companies, and I think quite often startups, they get into certain niche markets and they are so good and they have such a great product that they just grow, and they will scale up and scale up and scale up until they're just a pretty fucking great company, even though you quite often see that the companies that are, or were established a few years ago and that are pretty fucking popular right now are actually, all of them are quite companies that were established in a market that hasn't been existing before. If you just look at Uber, there wasn't something like this before. Yeah, there were taxis and, other kind of vehicles and whatever, but not in such a way. And Apple, with their smartphones, I think they were the actual first ones who had a smartphone and the iPod and so on. And so therefore they just, created their market and created their brand through other technology. And, totally Bill Gates and Microsoft, they kind of established and, I would even say kind of established the personal computer, even though the first personal computer was actually from IBM, if I remember correctly, which was in the 1960s, I think, if I'm correct. I think so. But yeah, let's go ahead with money. And I do have seen that there are quite a lot of, do you even see it? Great. I could actually zoom in a little bit more and actually, or do it like this, because then you can actually see me a little better, and I will, thank you. Yeah, I think you can see it a little bit better like this. But where did it stop? We will talk about money. So this is the next kind of chapter, the next part of this book summary. And yeah, so are you an optimist or a pessimist? Thiel talks about one perspective on the future as taking one. So Thiel talks about one's perspective on the future as taking one of four possible views. And that's totally the thing, and this, definitely, which, it's quite the same thing as the subheadline. If you're an optimist, you will totally think like, yeah, I will have a lot of money. I'm sure that I have the skills and my skills are good enough and whatever. But if you're a pessimist, you definitely think like, okay, I'm not good enough. I won't make the money and so on. But I'm quite surprised that there are four, because I'm actually just pointed out to one. So yeah, but what I wanted to say initially, just before, before I stopped actually, there are quite a lot of great insights in this book, or just a lot of great, infographics or graphics in general, and you can definitely see one just beneath, I think. But yeah, so you can also expect the future to be either better or worse than the present. Optimists welcome the future, pessimists fear it. I definitely fucking welcome the fucking future, because this is something I might be talking about quite often in the next few episodes, and I have been talking about it. It is that I'm so fucking pumped to see what the future looks like, just in terms of technology. I'm not pretty looking forward to seeing the earth melt down or melting down. This is totally not something that I'm kind of looking for, but I just want to see, okay, there are autonomous cars, and there is cars that are powered by actual, not electricity, but through water, only H in chemistry, it is H2, so therefore it's just, like oxygen is like hydrogen. Is it like this? Hydrogenic cars. Is it this expression? I don't know. But I'm pretty much looking forward to just see, are there flying cars? Are there not flying cars? And therefore I'm actually pretty fucking glad that I'm so young. Actually, I'm very young. Even though a lot of people might think, I'm actually 18 right now. Being 18 is quite not that young anymore, because in my country, in Austria, I'm actually an adult right now, so I can drink, I can smoke, I can basically do whatever I want. The thing is, this just makes you feel a little older than it is actually as a number. But the thing is, which is something that I've kind of adopted from Gary Vee, is that if you just double the number of your age, which for me then would be 63, I guess. Yeah, if it was, 36, 36. If it was 36 right now, this would be the exact same amount of time or amount of years that I've been living until now. To just see, okay, I've been doing such a lot of things in these 18 years. And what will come next? What will come in the next 18 years? And you definitely can then see that you have such a lot of time left. It is such a lot of time. And when I'm 36, then even everything starts actually, Or is it 36? Fuck it. Yeah, 36. Not a dumb motherfucker. So 36 actually, which is definitely nothing, you know. I'm not even 40, you know, makes sense, but I'm not fucking old even if I just double my age, you know, and then you can actually see, okay, there is a fucking lot of time left for me, and there's just, you know, a lot that I will be experiencing in the next 18 years. And because you just have a feeling for what you have been or what you were able to experience in the past 18 years, or, you know, in terms of me. But let's actually just have a look on this great graphic. So we have, it is a two row and two, so it's like a dice, but not three-dimensional, but two-dimensional. And you do have 3 rows and 2 rows and 2 other things. I do not know what they are called. So, and there's an indicator of definite and indefinite and optimistic and pessimistic. And optimistic and definite would be the US in the 1950s to the 1960s, and indefinite would be the US in 1982 to the present. Pessimistic would be China. Pessimistic and definite would be China in the present, and pessimistic and indefined or indefined, indefinite. So definite, indefinite. Such a, you know, I don't know what's wrong. Which would be Europe in the present. Okay, so the indefinite pessimism, someone who sees a poor future and has no idea how to change this. This is definitely a situation in life, or a situation for a country even, that is fucking fucked. You know why? Because if you can't even see how you will just manage to change your kind of way, and you totally can see your way that it won't be that good in the future, this is really fucked, you know, and you should definitely go out of this stage and go out of this position and move yourself to another one, which I think I will read quite now. So the definite pessimist is someone who knows the future is bleak, and as a result will be prepared for this. This is actually the move you want to do, is, you know, moving from the indefinite pessimism to the definite pessimism, because just being like, you know, I don't know what I should do, and dwelling around and whatever doesn't make, first of all, any sense, because, you know, it doesn't make any change. It won't get you to another place. It won't make you, you know, any better at something if you're dwelling about, you know, not being good at something. And on the other hand, it's just a fucked up place to be. You know, just don't be in this place. Just try to be able to kind of see how you can manage to kind of change the future in a way that you like it again. The definite optimism is someone who believes that the future will be better, but only if you work hard for it. And the indefinite optimism is someone who believes in a better future, but without knowing exactly how. I think in terms of the optimism, actually both are quite great. You know, if you're an optimist, it's definitely something that's good at my point of view, even though, you know, maybe in some situations it might not be the best thing to be. You know, if you're really extreme in it and you're just looking, you know, but the thing is, something that I've learned and something that I've been emphasizing as well, and something that I've been quite absorbing and using for my life, and you know, kind of implementing in my life, is that if you focus on certain things, you will get certain things. If it's positivity or negativity, doesn't care or doesn't matter, because, you know, if you just focus on the negativity and on negative things, you will definitely get negative things in your life. Therefore, is actually everything okay? Yeah, I think so. Therefore, just, you know, looking at the positive sides and the positive effects and the positive things of life is definitely good, or definitely the better one than just, you know, looking at the bad things, because you then only just see the good things. You know, all the bad things you won't even recognize. But I quite think, and this is what I feel, I do not have an example right now, but I quite think that only being an optimist and being like, you know, quite optimistic for every single situation, I don't know if this is really the key. You know, I think there is some kind of thing like, okay, this is a good optimism and this is a bad optimism, in terms of not being naive or kind of blind, but actually only, you know, optimistic. But yeah. Or could you even be, never mind, follow the money. So the power law becomes visible when you follow the money. In venture capital, where investors try to profit from exponential growth in early stage companies, a few companies attain exponentially greater value than all others. Thiel uses one of his organizations, Founders Fund, to illustrate this concept. Facebook was their all-time best investment with results better than all of the other investments combined. And Palantir, again, is expected to have similar results, although second still to Facebook. The concept that a single successful investment can outdo the combination of all other investments, Thiel explains, is venture capital. Okay. So Thiel explains that technically everyone is an investor, and therefore the power law is relevant to everyone. Any time spent working on a startup is technically an investment. Anybody who considers themselves as an entrepreneur, someone investing the time, needs to consider if and when the startup will provide returns. Again, anyone who chooses a career is investing in the assumption that the work performed will, in the future, be valuable in the future. That's definitely a good point that he makes. And he definitely kind of also says, on the other hand, that if you're just really, conscious about, okay, this company or this work that I'm doing or this startup isn't doing me anything good in the next, 20 years even. It always depends on you and your situation. When you just expect some great returns or even at least some returns. But I think sometimes it is definitely a long-term journey or a long-term game, and therefore just being conscious about it and actually adopting your way of just kind of doing your life and quitting is just the way to go at my point of view. And this is exactly the same thing that Seth Godin in his book The Dip was telling you and telling me, and I've been actually talking about this on this episode as well, or on one episode and on this podcast as well. And it is fucking great. It is a quick read and there is a lot in it, and I think this is something because I've always been thinking about quitting, it is something bad, it is something you shouldn't do. You should always just give your best and try to kind of solve the problem and try hard and whatever. But the thing is, if you just really see that this company or whatever you're doing isn't giving you any return in your expected kind of time span or time period, then you should totally do something else. And there are so many options. There's definitely something you can do. This is the good thing about life and about the internet as well, or especially about the internet. We have so many opportunities. We all have so many. And, you could be here in my position doing the podcast right now if you're just listening to this. Everybody's kind of able to just establish their company online and do something else if the other thing isn't just fitting your life or fitting quite what you want. In the next few episodes, I hopefully will have some water as well, because on a few episodes I was actually pretty much struggling with my voice, and you can definitely hear it a little bit not that clean as it should be. This is what happens to me if I'm not sleeping as much as I should. I immediately get some slimy things in my whole system, and this is not great, this is not good, but I just know, okay, if I just sleep more than 5 hours a fucking day, then everything regulates itself and everything will be good at the end. But the thing is, just quite look out for that. Do not just risk your health because you want to do something so bad, because at the end, if you don't have any health and if you're completely fucked, you can do not do anything. You can't do the smallest thing for your company or for your future company or for just a thing that you want to do. If it's just for okay, I will just do this, and every single day you're going to bed at 1 a.m. and getting up at 5 a.m. again, and whatever. So this has a few suggestions from anyone starting their own company. The first one is Thiel has a few suggestions. The first one is one market will outperform the others. Definitely. There are the main markets like health, wealth, and it might be technology, but I'm not sure. And the second one is one distribution path will also outperform the others. At my point of view, and there are quite a lot distribution paths, totally, but I think you should actually be combining. You should not only be using the internet alone, as a distribution or just, marketing thing is, quite the same as just distribution, I think. Let's see. Yeah, quite. So not using one single thing is for me the key, because I kind of believe in not having your eggs in one basket. I'm just looking at diversity and, being, just diversifying everything in my life so that I'm not just, that I'm not quite fucked if anything breaks down. So that I can be like, okay, I still have all these 5 other things and these will just save me anyways. And the third thing is consider time and decision making as some of these are more relevant and matter more than others. Yeah, totally. Time is something that's pretty precious, and decision making is also something that you should be good at. I'm not that good at it because I tend to not make any decisions in my fucking life because I hate making decisions actually, which is kind of not something a leader should do, or a leader should have as a character trait. But I think I could just work on it. But it is quite hard for me, and this is definitely something that I have to work on, and that I have to just I have to just look at it and just try to understand why I'm doing this, and I think this will make a lot better. Yeah. So you can't trust a world that denies the power law to accurately frame your decisions for you. So what's most important is rarely obvious. It might even be a secret, but in a power law world, you can't afford not to think hard about where your actions will fall on the curve. Secrets and foundations. According to Thiel, there are 2 different kinds of, or is it actually Thiel? Because it is and TH. But never mind. For me it's Thiel because it sounds better, and I don't know. So there are 2 different kinds of secrets in our world. The first kind of secret is one of nature, and in order to uncover them, you must study the natural world and discover something new. The second kind of secret is about people. There are either things that are consciously hidden by people themselves, or something that even they do not know about themselves. Thiel says that when deciding what kind of startup you want to begin, consider the secrets that nature isn't telling you and the ones that people aren't telling you. And if you can uncover these secrets, you can find answers. The thing is, I think that he is just willing to tell you is you should actually be doing something that's solving a problem. If it is actually something that nature is practically hiding from us and you are solving this problem, then yeah, you will definitely have a great company if it is something worthwhile. If you just, I don't know, uncovering the secret why stones are not round, not every stone is round. I do not know if so much people are interested in it and, want to get associated with it or even want to work for you. But if it's really something that is, kind of precious for us and has a kind of worth, it is totally a good business idea, because people will come and people will work for you and you will get your investors, and practically your fucking company will be a hit quite. And in terms of people, I do not know. Maybe it's, some people who are just really famous or really rich, they all have their secrets. And if you just really can uncover their secrets and how they're living their life and whatever, and just get a lot of great informations, then you could practically write a book, or you just, could make a website or a YouTube channel or a podcast as well. And therefore you're just solving maybe another one's problem as well, because you know the informations, or you have the informations from a person who actually made it in this area of life, or made it in life in general. Build a foundation. Thiel considers the following things as absolutely essential when starting a business or a startup. He thinks that they are so important that those close to him call these Thiel's law. Okay, actually pretty fucking interesting. A startup messed up at its foundation cannot be fixed. As a founder, your first job is to get the first things right, because you cannot build a great company on a flawed foundation. And that's the same thing with every single building. If your building has a fucked up foundation and a fucked up base, everything will be fucked that you're putting on this fucking fundamental. It makes sense, but I think a lot of things in life are like this. It's also the same with knowledge. You just have to have some kind of basic knowledge to actually understand the other ones and, the more complex situations or problems or whatever you're learning. Founding matrimony. So founding matrimony. The very first decision is who your co-founder is going to be. This is someone you will share a lot with. You need to have history and know that you can work together. Thiel goes as far as to liken this as to choosing a husband or wife. So Thiel goes as far as to liken this as to choose or as to choosing a husband or wife. Makes sense. I do not think that it is working for every husband or every wife because, it will create a lot of tension, definitely. It's a company and it's not all about, your family and your children and your kind of relationship. It is, quite often about just, it should be the way. It is quite about your company and just having your spouse in this company, I think is not a great idea. I don't think so. Ownership, possession, and control. You need to establish who A, owns the company, in brackets ownership, and B, who manages the day-to-day running, the possession, and C, who looks after the company's affairs, in brackets control. It's important to acknowledge that this is likely 3 different people. Yeah, then it's the, what is it called? The DEO is the design executive officer. The CEO is, then there would be the manager, the MEO, and what is the other one? This, CEO, I don't know. Never mind. So on the bus or off the bus, Thiel believes it is important that everyone involved in the startup is a full-timer for your company. There are exceptions, for example, lawyers, but as a rule, ensure that everyone is a regular. Cash is not king. Thiel points out that cash is about the now and not about the future. It does nothing to encourage workers to work hard and create value for the company's future. A cash bonus is likely better than a cash salary, and at least is contingent on a job well done. But even so-called incentive pay encourages short-term thinking and value grabbing. Short-term thinking and value grabbing. Yeah, totally makes sense. Giving your fucking employees so that they do not left your fucking company a little bit more money, I think isn't the way to go. You should actually be like, okay, creating a great space so that they actually like to work at your company in terms of the surrounding, in terms of how it feels like working for you, in terms of actually you being a good boss or a good founder or a good leader. And on the other hand, maybe even having great colleagues, because some of them might be shit or whatever. There are a lot of factors and there are a lot of things to watch out. Vested interests. It doesn't have to be all about good salary when it comes to startups. Having equity in the company is an effective way to reward people and keep them involved. Yeah, totally. If they own a little bit of your fucking company, they will definitely be working a little bit harder on it because they're actually working for themselves and they're working for their own success. And, therefore, I think it is quite difficult for a founder or a CEO or just, a business owner to quite give their employees the same kind of empathy or the same kind of energy to actually be working on this company because it's not theirs. It is your company, and it is definitely, it makes sense that you are passionate about it and you're passionate about what you're doing, but, it doesn't have to be the case for everyone because, as I said, it's not their business. Extending the founding. Establish the rules at the very beginning. When you found the company, make it clear what the rules are so everyone involved is on the same page. Definitely, I think, and this has something to do with communication, and communication as such is pretty difficult, first of all, to understand and to kind of use it and consciously use it and consciously using it the right way, because There are so many factors, internal, external. There might be some misunderstandings and some wrong, some wrong options or wrong decisions made, because it's just what communication is like. Sometimes there are flaws, or sometimes there are just failures and or fails or mistakes, and that's, I think, totally normal. But if it's kind of becoming quite a lot, and it's kind of becoming overwhelming for the company or for the CEO or for the people, then you definitely have to think about your communication or your kind of communication. Building culture. A company doesn't have a culture, it is a culture. Thiel talks about how everyone at PayPal in the early days was nerdy and shared a love for science fiction. It became their culture, regardless of age, race, gender, looks. As long as everyone loved science fiction, then they fit in just fine. Thiel encourages handling your staff as individuals and making them unique in their role and responsibilities. Therefore, if they are solely responsible for one task, then they can easily be assessed and evaluated. This strategy worked for Thiel as a way of simplifying the management process. However, it can create unease as employees compete for the same responsibilities. Watch out for this particularly in startups. Thiel warns, as roles are a lot more fluid in the beginning, it is important to define who is responsible for what and how this will be assessed. Will I go on? I think, where's the conclusion? There's the conclusion. So it's about 1, 2, 3, 4 left. And therefore, I think this is actually it. This is actually it with this episode. But I still quite feel like a little bit speaking again, and I do just have to see myself to see if everything is okay. I hope as always that you got something out of this episode. I think in terms of talking, which was something that I've been dwelling around a little bit in the past, and I've always kind of pointed it out in the episodes as well, that it wasn't going that good or it wasn't going that well or as well as I wanted it to go. But today it was actually quite fun, and I'm quite satisfied with the result I just generated, or the product that I've just generated. I quite always, and I do hope that I will not have any problems with this anymore. Maybe it was also just because I wasn't sleeping enough, and because I haven't had that much energy left, or I didn't have that much nerves for doing the episodes every single day, and just sitting there. And it's not because it's not fun, because sometimes there are just hard things, and sometimes even though you like it, you don't like it certain days, and I think that's totally normal. At my point of view, there's nothing you could be doing every single day the whole time long for every single day. As I said, sometimes you just don't feel like it, but then if it is something that is just really making you happy, or was making you happy, then just push through it, because these are just some times and some time periods where some things might change, or you subconsciously kind of ask yourself, if this is actually the right thing you should be doing, which was actually the same thing for me, because I was thinking like, shouldn't I do something else? Should I do something in terms of sports? Is the self-development and the finances and, the economics and, whatever I'm talking about all the time, is this really the thing that I should be talking about? Is this what I'm actually, can I actually bring value to people? Because I'm not seeing any results yet. And, so there are two things that I always just have to remind myself on, which is, the first one is being patient. And this kind of plays in the hands of the other just statement I did, because there is quite nobody, actually one person that is actually listening to the podcast, and quite nobody who is actually quite watching the videos. But I understand that this is just a matter of time. A lot of people just started out with a few videos, and some of them just made only a few videos, and because they were so great and they were so well produced and everything was great about them, they just got the leverage, or got the audience, or got that amount or that number of audience so quickly just because the product is pretty good. And therefore, yeah, I'm also asking myself, is my product actually, good enough? Should I do something else? Should I do it in another way? Should my episodes be shorter, actually? There are so many questions, totally. And but I think it is also important to not be, cribbling yourself, because you can totally think about certain things and, how life is going the whole time. You can, but does it make sense to just, dwell around and think all the fucking time? I think not particularly. Just thinking and asking yourself questions is fucking important, and you should definitely be doing it a lot more often, because I kind of think like this can just show you a lot of things that you are not recognizing, otherwise, because you're asking yourself, for example, is this length of the episode actually good enough, or should I actually do it a little bit shorter? And then you can just, search for things, or search for indicators, or search for quiet answers. Some things that I found is that podcasts in general tend to be a little longer, and therefore I decided, okay, I will just do a little longer videos, because the video itself is also the podcast, and therefore I quite have to do it, because it is the podcast, and the podcast as such are most often, not all the podcasts, and some of them are pretty short actually, but most of the time they are quite long. And but so and you just understand, hopefully, that by asking you questions you can see a lot of things, or just, for example, why did I judge him? Didn't I like his style? And if it is like this, doesn't it make sense that I'm not liking his style and therefore not liking him? Why is he doing or she doing it? Why is he or she wearing that extraordinary stuff? There are quite a lot of questions, and good questions, valuable questions that you can ask yourself to kind of, I think, even improve your life. But yeah, and there's just some siren going. Is it a siren? Some alarm going outside of me, so outside of my window in the outside in front of my house, actually. It's one of a car, actually. Interesting. Maybe I will just look after out of the fence, out of the window, quite afterwards. But I think this is actually it with the episode. I hope you got something out of it, and yeah, I still wish you the success, the happiness, the health, wealth, happiness. I hope you're giving back something, because as you know, this is important, and I hope you have a great legacy, and that you are so fucking happy that that you just love your life and appreciate and be grateful for everything you're having. And with that being said, I wish you a wonderful day, or night actually.